What's up, Pan Dudes? Peter Von Panda here. Hey, I want to bust out one of my watches here, and I'm actually shocked that there is almost no information, or not information, but videos of this particular watch, because I think it was one of the great kind of underappreciated watches. It's by Arnold & Son. It comes with this passport-like book with your certificate of authenticity and your information on it. I'm not going to go into all that, but it's pretty cool, and it's kind of better than just getting a plastic card. Arnold & Son, as you may be aware of, is a British watch company. John Arnold, I believe. He was making chronometers for maritime use. So watches, or actually I should say clocks, combined with a sextant and other maritime navigational aids, were the GPS for many, many years, and or many centuries, really. And I believe the Arnold Son 1764, actually, at the top of the box here, when you open it up, it says 1764. So about a decade before the Revolutionary War, you can see how much history this company has. And then kind of Arnold & Son disappeared from watchmaking, was acquired by the company that also owns Graham, another beautiful watch brand, and has really started coming alive in the last few years with some really amazing movements. You can check out a Vlog to Watch and some of the Bezel World videos there. The Arnold & Sons right now are just kind of really into the skeletonized or partially skeletonized movements, in-house, really amazing stuff, really interesting. But it's a fairly big departure from, I think, a little bit more of the traditional watches, like the one I have here, and kind of more in the territory of Louis Moinet, which is, you know, one of my favorite brands too. But this is a watch that I love. It's one of my favorites. It's a watch that you can wear a lot. It is the Arnold & Son Scout GMT. I believe it's you throw a navigator in there as well. But as you can see, it is orange or yellow, depending on kind of how you're reading the color. But I would say it's more of like a French's mustard color. It's not a real bright yellow, and it's not a real saturated orange. You know, you'll see orange dials from Tag Heuer and Shinola and whatnot. But the cool thing about this is that this particular watch is pretty large. It's actually 44.5 millimeter case, stainless steel, polished to coin edge here. There's no rotating bezel or anything like that. But for dollar and pound for pound, this watch is just a ton of great value in a brand that is unique. And although this is not a limited edition per se, it is a very limited and hard to find watch, because Arnold & Son doesn't have quite the name recognition that a lot of other companies do. But it's a fantastic watch, a little bit, like I said, more off the beaten path, which I tend to like. A couple of things about this particular watch, and let me give you some stats here. Pretty large watch. I'll throw it on here. It comes with this rubber band in that same mustard color, and it just looks great. It's not overly big, it's not an oversized watch, but it's not a very small watch. And the case itself is unique in that it's a little bit of like a dog bowl shape, so it's narrower at the bottom, so it actually doesn't feel very large. You know, you kind of, when you look at it, you get a pretty full dial here, kind of like the Breitling Navitimers. But then on the side, you don't have a ton of thickness. You don't have a lot of bulk pressing right up against your wrist. So it's a very comfortable watch to own. 22 millimeters between the lugs. Everything is polished. It's really beautiful, engraved with Arnold & Son right there on the side. Sapphire crystal domed with anti-reflective coating, so you can see kind of as I'm getting the sunlight there. You can see the face, no problem. Again, stat-wise, this is a mechanical watch. You can see fantastic movement. This is their caliber A1850, which is based on the Swiss caliber at a 2892A2, I believe. You know, and a GMT movement, if you're familiar with those, you know, for my money, it doesn't get any better than GMT. I think John Mayer in one of his videos said, you know, kind of a GMT was kind of like the original app. So, you know, if you think about watches being kind of high-end collectibles, you know, the more features they had, the better, and the GMT function was one of them. So, beautiful movement. The rotor here is engraved. You can see that if I rotate it far enough, you can see the caliper or the caliber size engraved on the inside there in that mustard color. The pushers, or the crowns actually, since it doesn't really have pushers per se, are interesting because they also have a kind of that mustard color, like a polyurethane underside, which is kind of cool. The top crown, which is not a screw-in crown, controls the rotating bezel. So it has a compass bezel here, and I'll be honest, I don't know really how any of this works, but I know on so many of these analog watches you can split the hour and the minute hand and point it to the sun, and then you can kind of figure out north, south, east, and west. But you know, what's also makes this different from some of the other Arnold and Son is they have additional a navigational piece. So some of them you'll have like a pocket watch door on the back with some other locating features, and this one does not. I do like that on the back. You know, I don't know how much that compromises the water resistance. You know, it wouldn't screw up anything mechanically, but I don't think the spinning navigational piece inside of the back flap is mechanical, but it certainly seemed to leak to me. You know, the back plate here is screwed down, obviously exhibition back window, and like I said, it's just overall a really nice watch to, let me give it a little rub on the face here so you don't see my finger prints. Just a beautiful watch. I bought it because of the design. So let's talk about that a little bit now. The watch itself, let me, all right. Oh, yeah, now you're nice and clean for my friends. The face is what I fell in love with, and the beauty of this is the dial itself isn't all single color. So it also comes with this black rubber band, and that really changes the feel of the watch. It really tones down how bright it is, so you can wear it as a dress watch. You can put this brighter band on it. It gives a little bit more of a sporty feel. But a couple of the ways it works is this top controls the outer compass bezel, and this crown is the screw-down crown for all the other functions. And so you can see that I'll go ahead and screw it out, or unscrew it. It'll pop out to the first position, which you can wind the movement. It's got about a 42 to 46 hour power reserve, and then the first stop, and I actually don't have it memorized, so we'll just try it and figure it out, is the GMT movement. So there we go. See, and this whole inner wheel here, it's a little hard to see, but the 24 hour is marked on this inner dial, and it is static. What turns is that black and white kind of BMW alternating color wheel, and then you turn this, and you're going to see it's going to jump an hour ahead for GMT time. So this north, this compass north, and that red mark there is basically how you're going to track your second time zone. And it says second time zone right there, so shouldn't be surprised about that. I'm going to pull it out one more stop here. And you can see hacking seconds now, and this will change the time for the main clock. And if I take it right here to midnight, you can see the GMT time goes right to 8 o'clock. So, you know, you can see that they're working. What's interesting is you know, you've got two sword style hands. They have superluminova, these hour markers that are kind of compass rose triangle hour markers are also illuminated, and you can ultimately change the date with that too. So I'm going to go ahead and push this back in and just kind of take a look a little bit at the design features, and again, screw in the crown, so we'll get that tightened in. And the sweeping seconds hand is pretty typical. Magnified date window there, and what's cool about that date window is it has kind of a raised polished bezel. The magnification works great, but it's also a little bit interesting that the date window kind of floats on the outer ring of the GMT, and actually I thought, oh geez, you know, how do those hour numbers move? And then I realized, well, those are all static. So it's kind of a nice little, you know, it's a nice detail that you know, and everything is such tight tolerances. You got to really take a look to see how things kind of fit and work together. That inner dial, basically, so instead of just a second, like a smaller second hand to tell you the GMT time, it basically has this full inner dial, which is a cool little feature, and it's a lot of hardware to move to give you a GMT time, but I really dig it. It's something different, and it really kind of gives the dial a finished, complete look, and you know, it's just a lot of detail on there, and it's kind of cool to see that those alternating colors kind of spin. I don't know how often you need really a GMT timekeeper, but it's pretty cool. The other thing is with these kind of compass rose triangles that are applied to the dial, they definitely stick up, and so they give some nice depth. You can see, you know, polished edges, super luminova inside of those triangles, and they give you, you know, it's just nice because it doesn't feel like a screen printed or you know, stamped dial. It just is kind of a nice little bit of detail, and you know, and there's a lot of things going on here, so it doesn't feel like more of a traditional older retro style watch where you just have simple hash lines. You know, they definitely fill it out, and it looks really interesting and really looks like a navigational piece, regardless if you're ever going to use this for navigation, which I don't think you would. Of course, I'd love to see a movie where aliens attack and the captain of a frigate gets stuck with an electromagnetic pulse and everything goes haywire, but he's able to navigate and attack aliens using nothing but the navigational features embedded on his Arnold & Son watch. So look out for that movie. I think it's a wonderful plot line. The hands and the second hand are all just polished. The cool thing about that hour hand is obviously you can see it has that long red painted extension and the kind of the little kick up. So it's a little bit like a dentist pick, but it just kind of shows how much precision and detail goes into these pieces. And then on that outer bezel, we also have the applied raised triangle piece, so the clearances there get very, very close, but you know, when you have a watch in this price point and kind of with this level of quality, it's just, you know, they're going to take the time to do some of those really nice or make some of those really nice details a piece of their timepiece. The other thing that's interesting to me here is on both of the crowns, they have this slot, so it seems like you can use a flathead screwdriver on them, which is what you're going to want to do. Not. It's just whenever I see that, I just think of a screw head. So kind of unique and interesting there. But you know, it's a 22 millimeter lug to lug. You can certainly swap this out for a watch band of your choice. But again, you know, Arnold & Son, just a brilliant brand, making beautiful watches. This one came out in about 2011, so it's a little bit, it's a few years old. Retail was about $6,000 to $7,000. I don't remember exactly how much the original purchase price on this was, but a lot of watch for the money. I know you can get some other really recognizable brands in that price point with similar movements and build quality, but the cool thing about this is just such low production numbers to Arnold & Son. It's a brand you don't see all the time. I very rarely see these in the wild on people's wrists, but when I do, you know, you really kind of appreciate it because of you know, people that are kind of seeking out watches. So Arnold & Son, you know, it's one of those things where watch brands that are kind of resurrected from the dead tend to kind of capitalize on the history and not so much kind of builds the reputation on the merits of their watchmaking. But Arnold & Son to me is absolutely pushing ahead, making some really avant-garde designs, and their new in-house and custom movements are just phenomenal, putting them second to none. So keep an eye out, and if you like Arnold & Son and brands that are a little off the radar, definitely check out what they've got to offer here. So Peter von Panda with my Arnold & Son Scout GMT. Out!